My name is Andy Reid, and this is the Alchemicast right here on Alchemical Records, where we give musicians around the area a chance to talk about what they've been doing, the music they've been writing, how their personal lives are going, and anything else that they want to add. My name is Andy Reid, and I've been in the music area for, more than a decade, playing a number of instruments, recording with a number of bands, and gigging at anywhere from garages to music venues to festivals and everything in between. Even though I started playing out of my basement, I have realized the amount of hard work it takes to be a musician in this area. Being from the DMV is about hard work and applying yourself and realizing that, you really have to work if you want to be passionate about your craft and make something of it. With me on the show today, I have Josh Finver, the vocalist for the band Dog Prowl, a recent Whammy winner. And he actually just survived a recent heart attack. So he's feeling better, and he's come on the show to talk to us a little bit about the music he's been writing, what the band's been up to, and a little bit about the future of music as a musician from the DMV. So without further ado, Josh, you're live on the Alchemicast. Josh, how's it going, bud?
Hey, Andy, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So how have things been going?
They've been going. Definitely an interesting, year plus. And I had a little incident that we'll maybe get to in a little bit later in the podcast, but overall, doing well.
Yeah, I mentioned your recent recovery, if we want to call it that. Do you want to
Sure.
start with that? It's good to see you. It's good to see you healthy and full of life.
Thank you. We can start there. I'm happy to be here, like in so many ways. On May 2nd, I had a heart attack, which is still a crazy thing to say. Wow. It was caused by a massive blood clot in my heart. Formed in my heart. No underlying medical conditions, no rhyme or reason really for it. Every medical expert that I've seen is, resulting from this has said that they've never seen anything like it. They don't really have a medical explanation for it necessarily. So, although I'm just happy to still be alive and hoping to return to a stage near you soon. So there's that.
Well, I'm so glad to hear you're doing okay, man. That must have been really scary.
Yes, it was very scary. I mean, at the time, I didn't really consider, I'm not in the at-risk categories in really any way. I do love barbecue, but other than that, they said it was nothing to do with any of that. It's just kind of a freak thing. I had my vaccine. They don't really believe that was the cause, but that is kind of like the X factor that they don't really have an explanation for. But like I said, I'm happy to be here. They expect a full recovery, and it's just going to be a process. And once they get the medical clearance, I'm coming at you. It's happening.
Well, you're strong, and you're in one of the strongest hard rock bands in the DMV. So obviously you'll be able to pull through and keep making music for everyone around us.
Yes, that's the goal. Plenty of material.
Maybe you can tell us a little bit about the band and what you guys have been up to.
Sure. I mean, like a lot of people, we have been in kind of a holding pattern for a bit. Last show we played was October 19th, 2019, I believe, which was at the Fillmore, which we did record, and we may end up putting out as a standalone live record in the fall, and maybe on the 2-year anniversary or something like that. We'll see.
Yeah.
But other than that, like the big project that we kind of undertook during the pandemic was this in a collaboration with the Crossover TV and a ton of local DC artists. We recreated in its entirety the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. But put that together and put that out earlier this year, and that was a blast to be a part of, and really happy with the end result. So that was fantastic. Check it out if you haven't.
That's so fucking cool. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about that process and what it was like to get together with all these musicians from the DMV and, what that was like.
Yeah. So, I mean, I didn't physically get together, unfortunately, but that was the actual kind of impetus for the whole project was we wanted to do this like live show. Our drummer Enzo, kind of had this idea. It's like, what if we put this show together where we have like we could be Black Dog Prowl could be sort of like the house band, and then we just select as handpick as many local artists as we can to fill in the gaps and put on this live show. It'd be a great time. And we do Sgt. Pepper's in its entirety. And then obviously the pandemic happened and everything was on hold. And then Avik from the Crossover TV had been doing, the whole Crossover TV had been doing these lockdown sessions, which basically picked random musicians and picked a song, and then they sent files back and forth, and I participated in a couple of those. It was a great time. And then Enzo saw those and said, hey, what if we pitch doing this whole record to him as one video and see what he says? Like, I mean, worst case scenario, he says no, but I think that sounds like a great idea. And then we pitched it to him, and we, with the caveat of we'll do all the heavy lifting in terms of, wrangling the cats of getting all the musicians on board and excited about it. And they handle kind of the video editing and audio mixing on most of it. Video editing on all of it, audio mixing on most of it. But yeah, and they were excited about it, which was, both wonderful. And then as soon as we hung up the phone, we were just like, shit, now we got to do this. So, but yeah, we immediately reached out to as many people as we could. And, everyone was pretty excited. There were a couple hiccups, as any big undertaking like that will have, but it came together beautifully. And we're really proud of the work that we put together in that. So, yeah.
What was challenging about working with all these musicians remotely?
Well, I mean, obviously timing is always the the biggest challenge in terms of making sure the deliverables are in on time. But honestly, like, everyone was pretty great. They're really, like, it was more nerve-wracking, the anticipation of not making the deadlines than actually not making the deadlines. But I think the most challenging part of it was just taking a piece of work like that everybody loves, and knowing that there's going to be a reaction no matter what. Like, not everyone's going to love it. Not everyone's, going to hate it, obviously, but we hope that people just got a sense of the love that we have for that record and that band, and just the talent that we have in this area. And I do think that came through. So yeah.
And that it reaches the right ears at the right time.
Right. That's always a part of a challenge too. Also, not getting sued was nice.
Well, I love hearing about Black Dog Prowl and, the prowess you guys have made over the years. I remember seeing you guys play at Union Stage with Fellowcraft and Stone Driver, and was blown away by the hard rock sound. What is it like to play live? And maybe you can tell our listeners just a little bit about, the last show you played at the Fillmore. What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, playing live, I think, is my favorite part. I mean, it's great to, be in a room writing music and creating and being in the studio and all that is awesome. But playing live is my favorite aspect of playing music, just because the energy that you get from the crowd, you get, from playing with your bandmates and just being on the same page. And then just, like I said, the energy of the whole room just kind of coming back at you. And it's such a, gratifying feeling. And there's really just nothing.
There's nothing else like it. Right.
Yeah.
There's nothing it's such a powerful feeling.
Yep. And so that last show at the Fillmore, we opened up for Candlebox, who, 90s powerhouse in their own right. And then actually Jimmy's Chicken Shack was on that bill as well. So it was a great time, and to play with those guys, and we've been lucky enough to build relationships with the guys in Candlebox over the years. So it's been that's been great. Kevin Martin, the singer from that band, was actually a part of the Sgt. Pepper's project as well. He sang A Day in the Life. So that show was great, because that venue is just beautiful, and the sound is fantastic. Everyone who works at that place, and all the sound guys and all the the staff and they treat, no matter if you're Candlebox or you're Black Dog Prowl, they treat you like royalty. So it's a great place to play.
That's really cool. Yeah, I feel like there's nothing else like playing live, and you feed off the energy of the audience. Yep. So when you're playing and people start to vibe with what you're doing, and everyone's riding the same vibration, man, that's one of the best feelings in the universe. I love being a musician just for that reason.
Absolutely. Just seeing the eyes of people in the crowd. And I mean, even though, I have hair in my face, it's still just like, such a great feeling. Just, like you said, the energy you get back from the people in the crowd is it's intoxicating. There's nothing like it.
Yeah. So when you're playing music, what are some of the things that go through your head?
Don't fuck up is a big one, but I mean, honestly, once you're up there, the least amount of, or the less you can think, I think the better. Once you're up there, you kind of, all the practice you put in and all that stuff, that's where it kind of comes out. And you don't really, it should be second nature at that point. I mean, it's different for everybody, for sure. Like, not everybody has the same experience. But I mean, just
it's like a mixture of muscle memory and passion and like a little bit of alcohol, probably.
Yeah.
And then you mix all that, together, that liquid confidence and, the love for your instrument and for playing and the practice that you put in. And I feel like you shake up that really well, and you got yourself a musician on stage, more or less.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, like we keep talking about the crowd, but like that energy really, like, if you're in an empty room, you can still kind of, go through the motions of it, but you're not getting the same quality. I think, depending on the crowd, you really will kind of inspire a better show out of the band as well. So like, if the more energy that is in that room, the more energy you're going to get out from the musician. It's just a cycle of, gratification and awesomeness, and we seek out at every turn and every opportunity. So, just grateful to be able to do that.
And speaking of awesomeness, I was listening to your one of your last records, and I noticed that you sound kind of like Dio and Thrice. Who are some of your favorite musicians or bands, and how do you think they've influenced your music?
And so I grew up, obviously, my parents kind of instilled all the classics. I know that there's a different definition of classic rock depending on the artist that you have on here. But when I think of classic rock, I think of Led Zeppelin and the Beatles and the Doors and the Kinks and the Who and all these people. And that's kind of where my musical it started. But then my formative years were like the early 90s grunge influence. So Soundgarden, Nirvana, Alice in Chains, Mudhoney.
This is my office.
Yeah.
Welcome to the office.
There you go. So yeah, all those bands, and Blind Melon. And then there's like newer bands also, in terms of like the bigger ones. I mean, I think you get, as a local, like as a smaller band in the local market, we kind of get a lot of inspiration from other bands too, like bands like Teen Mortgage and even the kids in One Way Out. Like they're writing great music, and we're really like happy to watch their trajectory as they kind of come up. The O6 is another great band. And so, I'm not going to list everybody here. Everybody's great. Like there's so many good bands in this area. But yeah, I mean, Dead Sarah is a band from Los Angeles that is a newer band that we absolutely love. Emily Armstrong has one of the best voices in rock and roll. And yeah, so it's just finding inspiration from everywhere, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I find that you can get inspiration from music, from a bad joke, from waiting in line, and something just comes out of nowhere, and you're like,
life.
"Oh, that was yeah, life just slapped me in the face. That's a good lyric. Why not?"
Yep.
When you're writing a song, what does that process look like?
So it's different with Black Dog Prowl. It's really a collaborative thing, and we've had a few different members over the years, but and that kind of process has evolved. But it always kind of starts with somebody has an idea. Sometimes songs are more finished. Like sometimes I'll messing on GarageBand and I'll have a riff and I'll lay out this whole song and I'll show it to everybody and like, no, that's good. Let's just go with that. And then, everyone kind of does their own parts, obviously, but like normally it's messing with a riff, drummer, bass player, or other guitar player hear it and just kind of noodle with that and kind of have their own thing. And it just kind of builds up and everybody kind of puts in their ideas. Lyrics are my department, but like that's usually a last like the cherry on top, so to speak. Because I mean, not that lyrics aren't important. I just feel like you can't, like the foundation of the song has to be the music. So if the music isn't strong, then the lyrics don't matter really. So
yeah, you got to start with that base, right? Of the composition and the instrumentation and figuring out the arrangement. And then you can add that other layers of the Sunday, if you will, just to spice it up and add flair. When you're writing lyrics, what are some of the themes that you try to focus on?
So it's different. I mean, obviously the last 4 years, kind of had some sort of inspiration on what we're doing. There's a lot of anger in some of our music. And I think that the last 4 years were endless supply of that for us. So dealing with that, I mean, I try to deal with a lot of kind of ridiculous stuff, like the absurd, if you will. I mean, I try not to take things too seriously. Like I'll write a line and then kind of make fun of that line later in the song type of thing. Even though, is that, and the meanings of songs, I feel like they evolve too. Cause like you'll have something in your mind as you're writing it. And when you're done writing it, it might mean something different. And then you add the layer of when someone hears it or reads the lyrics, they get their own interpretation. And who the fuck am I to tell them their interpretation isn't the correct one? Whatever you find in it, obviously we don't want like a helter skelter murder situation going on like with Manson, but like this is we want to have we want to kind of write something that means something to us and that something can someone else can kind of take their own meaning from. So it's not like a rigid thing, but that I'll have something that'll mean something to me when I write it, and then maybe 5-10 years later it'll mean something different when I look back on it. So it's definitely a process.
Music is the message. And, it can carry all these emotions that can persist through time. It can almost be timeless. And I feel like most of the musicians during this pandemic period kind of looked inward and really focused on whether it was the absurd or the introspective or the experimental, found another part of themselves, and it came out in a really awesome way.
Yeah.
At this point in our conversation, I want to take a break and play a segment called This or That, where I'm going to give you some options. You just choose this or that, and then tell me why you chose that. Sound good?
All right. Sounds good. Let's give it a go.
All right. Let's start with the first one. We got Red Bull or Monster.
Can't have either right now, actually, but I guess Red Bull. Red Bull has a less offensive taste, but I prefer coffee over either of those.
And maybe the asterisk here is that it doesn't have to be right now. This is just in general. Maybe you shouldn't be consuming energy or caffeine right now, but who knows?
I'm okay with coffee. They said coffee's actually good for your heart, if it's filtered and whatever. But we don't have to get in all that.
Good. Well, that's good to hear. Okay,
Yeah,
we got another one. Converse or New Balance?
definitely Converse. Chuck Taylors were my shoe for the entirety of my childhood, and still now. Nothing beats a good pair of Chucks. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I've had, I think, 4 pairs of Converse and a couple pairs of skate shoes, but I go through Converse like, I don't know. Maybe it's being a drummer and you just like are using your shoes all the time. Like, I don't even skate that much anymore, but wearing your Converse is just like,
sure.
might as well just, wear them to fuck around in, whatever.
Yep. I mean, they're not the most durable shoes, but they're certainly, very dependable.
True. Yeah. Okay. The next
Go
one.
with everything.
Go with everything. Right. The next one is broccoli or kale.
Broccoli for sure. My wife probably won't like me saying that, but I definitely go with broccoli over kale. Just a better taste, and I feel like it's more diverse, I guess. I mean, I do love cooking, but yeah, I definitely cook more with broccoli than I do with kale. So.
Yeah, I feel like I use broccoli a lot. It's easy to cook. Kale is super easy to cook, but it's hard to convince the significant other to eat kale. It doesn't seem very appetizing. It's like a cruciferous or whatever they call it vegetable, like a very starchy leaf.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of gross. Like if you could do kale chips, that might
Right.
be a spicy way of doing it. I add some paprika and garlic and, maybe that's something, but.
My wife makes this Russian soup with kale, which is actually delicious. And I love kale in that soup, but standalone, it's not my favorite. So.
Well, I guess we'll use that as a segue for less healthy food. We got Wendy's or McDonald's.
Whew. Oh man, that's a tough one. I guess Wendy's. I like a spicy chicken sandwich, and the Frosty is solid. But I mean, a Big Mac and a McFlurry too. Like that's again, all things I can't have right now.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
In time.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a hard one. I feel like both are kind of on the same page, but they both have pros and cons. Like the fries at Wendy's versus like a Big Mac, it's kind of hard to choose. And then you have like Chipotle, which is a whole nother,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also don't like the Wendy's aspect of their donating to the Trump campaign stuff. So that's bad. But so maybe I'll switch back to McDonald's.
Maybe McDonald's. Okay. And then keeping it going, we got the Fillmore or the Strathmore.
Ah, man.
You're a little biased, I guess.
They're both beautiful. Yeah, I haven't played the Strathmore yet, and I can't turn on the Fillmore. So I guess I'll have to say the Fillmore for now. If the Strathmore wants to have us, then they had Chris Cornell, I think, not recently, but before the untimely passing of him. Yeah. So hopefully, if they want to have us, maybe I'll switch my answer. But for now, the Fillmore.
Nice. And then one more, we got Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page.
Whew. Man,
both difficult, right? Like
that is a very difficult question. These just get progressively harder, huh? Man, I think Hendrix is probably the best guitar player of all time, but Zeppelin may be the best band of all time. So it's a very difficult. I guess I'll have to say Page. I have to say Page. I'm not happy about it. I'm very upset about this now. You've upset me, but I'll go with Page.
I mean, both are, amazing guitarists. Both paved the way for guitarists for generations to come. Jimmy, as a left-handed guitarist, he also set it on fire, and the sounds he was making, no one had heard before. And then you pan over to Jimmy Page and people were like, this is almost sacrilegious. This is like the devil's music. The stuff he's playing, you can do that. You can use a bow on stage.
Right.
What?
Right.
Like, how does that make sense? So that's a hard sell. That's a hard one.
That's definitely the hardest one so far. So
well, thank you for playing this or that. I hope you enjoyed that little game. That's a fun segment we like to throw at our artists and bands on here. And the idea is that kind of just says a little bit about your person and your personality and the things that you find interesting, whether it's this or that. So thank you for playing.
Absolutely.
So at this point in the conversation, I want to ask you a question. What does it mean to you to be a musician from the DMV? And I've asked other artists this, and the answer can be anything you want it to be. It can be personal, it could be musical. So what does it mean to you to be a musician from the DMV?
So I love DC. Like I grew up as a son of a diplomat. My dad is a foreign service officer, was until recently, just retired. But so I bounced around all over the world growing up, but DC was always home base. Came and when I graduated from high school, came back and went to college here, and really kind of built a home in DC. And it's such a city rich with history, and I know that there's this perception that everyone in DC are lizard people and all that type of stuff, that the rest of the country kind of like looks down and doesn't think people actually live here. But they do. And sometimes they come from other parts of the country. And generally the shittiest people that are here are the politicians that were sent from other parts of the country. So to peel back the politics of all of it and just look at the actual people and the creativity and the diversity and the inclusiveness that this city represents, I think is so important. I also love the sports teams and all that. But yeah, it just means the world to be able to call this place home and to be a part of this music scene. And it's a sense of pride to, in some small way, say that we were part of building it for the next generation of musicians that are coming up. And we're still kicking, but it's nice to see it thriving the way that it is. So
yeah, I think it's easy for me to say that I grew up playing music in the DMV, and part of that experience was messing up a lot, and figuring out how to gig across town, figuring out rehearsal spaces. And you'll find this in most cities, but I feel like the DMV has its own flavor. You go to DC and go-go culture has persisted throughout time. You go up to Maryland and there's a lot of like these acoustic outdoor gigs. And then you go to Virginia, Northern Virginia, everything's a little disparate. So you might have something in like a garage or a house show. I feel like our brand of musicians are very versatile and adaptable, and we can kind of figure out how to work a situation in our favor where we can use that as a showcase for our music. And some of the inherent properties of being a musician are like, you're creative. You do things as an expression, whether you want to or not. Like that's how it comes out. You grab your guitar, you grab your sticks, whatever it is, and there you are. You're on stage talking to people through your instrument. So, I hear what you're saying. I feel like being a musician from the DMV is so much more than just playing an instrument and trying to make it. It's about recognizing the community that you're part of and working together toward a common goal,
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's not, like you kind of alluded to, there isn't, like, you can't say there's a DC sound, like a specific DC sound. Yes, go-go absolutely is kind of like, if you were to say one thing came from DC, that's kind of like the signature. But every from the Duke Ellington School of the Arts and all that type of stuff, like there's such a rich history of music here, and everybody kind of brings their own flavor to it. And like you said, there's this ability to collaborate from across genres, and I think that's something, obviously there's great music scenes around the country, and DC probably doesn't get enough shine as it should, but I can't say that there's a better music scene across the country than in DC. So really proud of what we've kind of built here.
Yeah, sure. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I'm sure you are. It's great to know that there are musicians like yourself that are producing great content, like the Sgt. Pepper album with your friends. That's incredible to do. So thank you for sharing that. And
Absolutely.
at this point, we're kind of reaching the end of our show. So thank you for
Aw,
coming on. I really appreciate the conversation. You're an amazing
absolutely.
guy. And I look forward to hearing more about Black Dog Prowl in the months to come.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. Look forward to making some more music. We're working on it. So we'll
Yeah.
be visiting Ben Green at Ivacota soon at some point. He doesn't know it yet, but we're gonna have a conversation. So.
Is there anything you'd like our listeners at home to know?
I would like them to know that from what I've seen, that live music is coming back. So please go out and support these artists, these venues. Go follow them on social media. Go share them with your friends. Go buy their music or buy their merch or whatever it is, and tell your friends about it. Engage with them on social media. Do all the things that you were talking about over the last year plus of I miss live music. Now's the chance to go out and do it. So come support everybody. And I'll be out there as soon as I'm get the green light from the doctor. So I'll see you there.
Well, hopefully you maintain your health, and we'll see you out there on some stages. Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Absolutely, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. My name is Andy Reid, and this has been the Alchemicast right here on Alchemical Records. Josh, I'll catch you another time. Long live rock and roll.